Vice President of the League of Women Voters of North Dakota. Dr. Barbara Headrick had a family emergency and couldn't be here today, so I'm going to be reading her statement on her behalf. And she wanted to take a moment first to express her deep appreciation to the members of the League of Women Voters of North Dakota. Vicki Goldall Rose now, who is here and helped to organize this event. She also wanted to thank many of the partners who stand with us, many of whom are here today, and throughout their statements that are included in your press packets. Their support reflects a broad and growing call for open, accountable representation. Barbara says that it is her honor to serve as president of the League of Women Voters of North Dakota. We are a stringently nonpartisan grassroots organization born from the fight for women's suffrage over 100 years ago. Our mission remains clear: to educate and empower voters so that our democracy remains strong and responsive to the people. We've asked for your attention today because we believe something vital is missing in how North Dakota's elected representatives are engaging with the public. In recent weeks, thousands of North Dakotans have taken to the streets to voice their concerns on issues ranging from tariffs to immigration to Social Security and veterans issues. These are the voices of our neighbors, our families, and our communities. The League of Women Voters of North Dakota, along with our partners, firmly believe that all North Dakotans, regardless of viewpoint, deserve the opportunity to be heard by the officials they elect to represent them in Washington. And the most transparent, effective way to make that happen is through regular, in-person town halls. Too many elected officials across the nation have been avoiding hearing from their constituents on these and other issues. This reduces the ability of voters to hold their elected officials accountable and weakens our democracy. We acknowledge that Representative Hedrickk recently held telephone town halls, her second one this year, and we appreciate any effort made to connect with constituents. However, these calls require residents to pre-register on a website and provide personal information just for a chance to ask a question. Many North Dakotans are not equipped to do that. It's also unclear how questions are selected or prioritized. That's not transparency. We think that's a barrier. But we're not here to criticize, we're here to help. We invite Representative Hedrickk, Senators Hoeven and Kramer to contact us, our partners, or other nonpartisan organizations or local news outlets to help make these in-person town halls happen. The people of North Dakota are ready to be heard. The question is, are our representatives ready to listen? And with that, I would like to turn the podium over to some of our partners here today. I'll be beginning with Amy Jacobson, who is the Executive Director of Prairie Action, North Dakota. Amy.
All right. Thank you, Mary. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for calling us here together today. I'd like to say there is no better organization to be doing this work than the League of Women Voters. They were born 100 years ago, over 100 years ago, to do this exact work, to protect and expand democracy. So I thank you for calling us together today. As Mary said, my name is Amy Jacobson. I'm with a local organization called Prairie Action North Dakota Institute, and we, as an organization, advance social and economic justice through things like strategic communication, education, and grassroots organizing. And I'm here today standing in solidarity with these partners that we work with here in our state with a clear and urgent message to our federal delegation. Senators Hoeven, Kramer, and Representative Hedrickk, it is time to come home and to listen to the people of North Dakota. we're calling on them to hold in-person town halls during their recess. There's a recess coming up at the end of this month, and we expect to see several town halls across our state so people can be heard. Right now, the impacts of federal decisions are hitting North Dakotans very hard, right now. Right now, we can start and look at housing. When federal grants disappear, so do critical services. The High Plains Fair Housing, which is a North Dakota-based organization, takes nearly 800 calls a year to help people who are fighting discrimination in housing, survivors of domestic violence, and people with disability. Right now, they've lost some federal funding that's impacting their ability to provide these services to the people in our state. Farmers, the very heart of our economy, are being whiplashed by trade policies, and as North Dakota Farmers Union, another North Dakota organization, has said that tariffs are a lose-lose for farmers and for the people of North Dakota. Topped off with cuts to the USDA staffing, our farmers are rightly worried that they won't be able to access the federal loans and support that they need when they need it most. Veterans, we've all seen the veterans are crying out. They're alarmed that the VA staffing cuts will increase wait times, have life and death impacts on people's access to healthcare, and crush less equipped communities' systems. These are the men and the women who have served our country, and they deserve better. Our universities, NDSU and UND alone, have already seen critical research programs cut. These are things that have already happened. These are programs that have brought hundreds of thousands of dollars to support students, to support faculty, and statewide innovation. These cuts stall progress, and they shut the doors to future generations in our states. And also, let us remember, just this week, people with disabilities. In Minot, this week, 23 employees were laid off from the North Dakota Center for Persons with Disabilities. That's not a budget adjustment, that's a direct blow to some of the most vulnerable people in our state. So, those are the things that have happened. Now let's talk about the deeper, those are just some of the things that have happened. But let's talk about the deeper fears that the people of North Dakota need our federal delegation to hear about. The potential dismantling of core federal programs. Head Start. North Dakota Kids Count reports that approximately 2,694 children across North Dakota, including tribal Head Start programs, which enroll 736 kids, have the potential, or that's the number of kids that they're serving in our state. If it is eliminated, as there have been federal discussions that have put it on the chopping block, this would strip early education from families who rely on it the most. This is not just short-sighted, it is actually cruel. SNAP. This program helps 45,000 people in the state of North Dakota. Those are North Dakotans alone, put food on their table. Over 66% of those people are children, and 32% are families with older or disabled adults in the family. But the so-called Department of Government Efficiency has already shuttered food programs that support schools, food banks, and local farmers. Those things have happened, and we expect to see them happen in more aggressive forms. That's not reform, that's abandonment of the people who need it most. And Medicaid, this is a lifeline. We all know this is a lifeline. It's actually a lifeline to 100,000 people in the state of North Dakota. That's how many people are enrolled in Medicaid in our state. It is a joint federal and state program that provides health coverage to low-income individuals and families, including children, pregnant people, seniors, people with disabilities, and some low-income individuals. But behind closed doors in Washington, there are subcommittees currently discussing deep Medicaid cuts. And we should know that our own federal delegate, Representative Julie Fedorchak, sits on one of those committees. She has a very important role on the Energy and Commerce Committee, and they are tasked, she is tasked, with finding hundreds and billions of cuts for Medicaid. So these numbers that we've talked about, they're not just numbers, they're real North Dakotans who are relying on these programs and relying on our government. They're people who worked hard, who paid in, and who are now fearing the very basic healthcare, housing, food, education, and dignity that we all deserve. These are not hypotheticals. These are active policy discussions happening in Washington, D.C. right now. They threaten the programs of the most vulnerable neighbors that rely on and survive on. and they are owed answers. That's why we are standing here today. We are demanding an in-hall, or multiple, not a problem there, at least one would be good, in-person town halls during the next recess that our federal delegation is expected to be back in the state of North Dakota and listening to the North Dakotans. We expect our federal delegation to look us in the eye, not through a screen or a monitor, and answer these very important questions. Democracy only works when leaders show up, and North Dakotans are watching. So we invite our federal delegates to be in contact with us as they set up their in-town halls in this next coming recess. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy, from Prairie Action, North Dakota. The next speaker is Dalton Ericson. He's the Executive Director of the North Dakota Human Rights Coalition. Dalton.
Good morning, and thank you all so much for showing up today. And thank you to all the people that fight for human rights, not just here in North Dakota, but throughout our country and the world. As said, my name is Dalton Ericson. I'm the Executive Director for the North Dakota Human Rights Coalition. And today, we recognize that the United States government has entered us into a constitutional crisis over mass deportations without due process. We have decided to enter a constitutional crisis to commit human rights violations. Free speech is under attack, marginalized communities are under attack, and the very foundation of human, civil, and constitutional rights that made this country great are under attack. We are at a historic and pivotal moment where we as a nation must stand up against authoritarianism. Elected representatives need to listen to the people, listen to the cries of their constituents, and listen to the teachings of our forefathers about upholding democracy and the Constitution. We have watched for far too long this administration commit human rights violations throughout our country and around the world. The people have been reaching out to our elected officials with emails, letters, postcards, and phone calls about this crisis our nation is facing, and yet their voices do not feel heard. They are not being listened to. We need our elected representatives to host in-person town halls. We need them to listen. We need them to take action to defend the constitutional rule of law and to defend human rights. Here in our home state, the North Dakota legislature will soon be wrapping up its session. A session where we have watched countless hours spent on unpopular culture war issues and watched as highly popular legislation like universal school meals get defeated. This is why we, the people, will organize our own legislative session, our own people's session. On Friday, May 16th, we call on you, the people, to join us as we collaborate as citizens to put together our own people's agenda. With the legislative ideas that we know are popular, with the ideas that are by the people, for the people, and that will make the people of this state great. So I invite you all to join us at the People's Session in Bismarck on May 16th, as we work towards a future where the will of the people is heard. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dalton, from the North Dakota Human Rights Coalition. Our next speaker is Reverend Marty Toepke-Floyd. He's with the Interfaith Alliance of North Dakota. Reverend Marty.
As I like to tell my parishioners, just call me Pastor Marty. I am a United Methodist pastor at Jacobson, First United Methodist Church, and I've been a pastor for over 30 years here in the Dakotas. Decisions from the executive branch of the federal government are forcefully impacting the citizens of North Dakota and the country. North Dakota voters have questions regarding tariffs and our rural economy, the accuracy of weather forecasts and climate predictions, the right of due process, the future of Head Start, and many other concerns that deserve to be raised in Washington, D.C. We at the Interfaith Alliance of North Dakota call upon our elected members of Congress to engage with the voters directly and in person to address these concerns and ensure our voices are being heard, and that our elected officials are carrying our concerns to the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate. Elected members of Congress have the responsibility not only to make laws for our nation, but also to communicate what, how, and why they do so. Voters back home have the responsibility not only to hold lawmakers accountable for their actions, but also to listen respectfully to the explanations. Direct and interactive communication is the best way to strengthen our democracy. Constituents need to know that they are being heard and not being ignored or taken for granted. And thus the Interfaith Alliance of North Dakota supports the North Dakota League of Women Voters' call for in-person, in-state town hall meetings between citizens and elected members of Congress. Thank you very much. It's about democracy and decency, and those are values that we have here in North Dakota and have always had and need to strengthen them now.
Thank you, Pastor Marty from the Interfaith Alliance of North Dakota. And finally, we're going to hear from Cody Scheler, who is the Advocacy Manager for the American Civil Liberties Union here in North Dakota.
Thank you, Mary, and it is indeed a privilege to be here, and we thank the League of Women Voters for calling us all here today. Like the League of Women Voters, we've been around for over 100 years and have been born out of the same time in history in this country, and we are happy to always be partners with working to better our democracy here in North Dakota and across the United States. Our congressional representatives must understand that the needs and the concerns of their constituents in order to ensure their decisions truly reflect North Dakota values. And that's why it's essential that the lines of communication are always open. Meeting with constituents, either one-on-one through town hall meetings across the state, is key to ensuring that our lawmakers are aware of the specific challenges and opportunities their constituents face, and that they remember who they represent, and that is the people of North Dakota. North Dakota citizens currently have a lot of concerns. One of the privileges of going last in the group is that so many of them have been highlighted, so I don't need to report or repeat them, other than to say things like Head Start, agriculture, and even right down to policy concerns like the voting rights that we all hold as fundamental to our representative democracy. We live in a representative democracy, meaning that we all vote for the people who go make decisions on our behalf. They work for us, and so therefore we call upon them to come and meet with us. If I, as an employee of the ACLU, ignored my supervisor, I don't know how much longer my job would be safe. And that is true for all of our elected officials, regardless of party or supermajority in what legislature or what state carried any sort of electoral college for any period of time. Party doesn't matter. This state has been represented by folks by both parties, and our current folks seem to be very comfortable that they don't need to talk to any of us outside of election season. Town halls are vital and important. They are not official events or photo ops, which we oftentimes do see our elected officials back in the state for. Our phone conference town halls or Zoom town halls do not provide appropriate interaction with people, being able to, as Amy said, look people in the eye. They can be choreographed, and it's essentially no more than a press conference where there's one-way communication. Our elected officials need to stand behind the podium and say what they need to say, but then they also need to intermingle out with the people that they work for. And so today we join all of our partners today calling for those town halls to be held, particularly during this recess, and that our three representatives in Washington, D.C. recognize that they are, and remember that they are representatives, they work for the citizens of North Dakota, and they are our fellow citizens, and they need to come and be held accountable and to interact with us. And so I, again, want to thank the League of Women Voters for calling this press conference, for making this call, and for all of our partners that we are so proud to work with in this state to improve democracy and to make the lives better for all people in North Dakota. Human rights, civil rights, and our civil liberties need to be protected and advocated for, and now is the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Cody, with the American Civil Liberties Union, North Dakota. At this time, are there any questions from the press or from the audience members? Greg, I can see it's on your lips.
My first question is, where is the press? They have a responsibility too, and I wish there were more of them here. And I just personally want to thank the League of Women Voters for what you're doing. It's really, really important. Thank all of you for being here to remind us why it's important. And I can't wait to go to my Fargo Town Hall meeting with my representatives. I've been waiting. Thank you.
Thank you for those remarks. We are happy to facilitate such a gathering. Barry?
Our national delegation have said in defense of themselves for not having town halls is that they're holding all these meetings across the state of North Dakota. Can anybody reflect on what the difference between having a town hall and meeting with specialized groups mean? Because they're using that as an excuse not to hold town halls.
Well, what I would be willing to say, and I'll certainly let our partners remark as well, is that some of these meetings, such as Representative Hedrickk, they're online, not everyone has access to that, or they may have registered and their questions were not asked. I believe that Senator Hogan has some meetings in the state. Oftentimes they're with organizations where most of us are not members of, perhaps, or they're, we're not kept from it, but we're not invited. Senator Kramer has radio appearances, but like a lot of us, I work during the day and I can't tune in on the radio necessarily to participate in that sort of thing. So we think that community, town halls in person, allowing anyone, regardless of their political affiliation or their questions, their age, whatever their designation, we think that's the best place to be. And those representatives who were elected to represent us in Washington, I believe they owe us that. Anyone else care to remark on that?
For many years, I lived in Wishit, North Dakota, and I remember when Kent Conrad came there in around 2008, 2007, when there was that huge bailout bill for banks and other industries. And he came and met with the community. There was probably 2-3 dozen people there. That was a controversial thing. I don't know how many of you remember that. It was a huge amount, $750 billion or something like that. It was the biggest bailout they'd ever done. And he came and he talked about, hey, this is why we had to do it. If we didn't do it, X, Y, Z would have happened. And he was courageous, people were respectful, and I will never forget that opportunity that he came to rural North Dakota and spoke directly with people and took questions.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Mary, I just wanted to mention that in the press packet that there is an analysis of the public events that Senator Hogan has on his website and looks at the number that are available to the general public as well as what other types of events he has.
Thank you for that. And also, I just wanted to also mention that besides the partners who have joined us here today, we also have the support of the North Dakota Newspaper Association and the North Dakota Native Vote population. Couldn't be here with us today, but they offered their supportive statements as well. Any other questions?
I have a question for Pastor Marty. Can you tell me more about your work with the Interfaith of North Dakota? I'm interested.
Sure.
I'm on the board for the Interfaith Fargo Moorhead.
Okay, yeah. Interfaith Alliance of North Dakota, it's a community of lay and ordained faith leaders who work together to challenge intolerance and extremism through education and advocacy, bringing about greater social, economic, and environmental justice in North Dakota. We're affiliated with the National Interfaith Alliance, and we have partners from a variety of faiths as well as partners who don't hold any religious beliefs. There's Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, Roman Catholic, Muslim, Episcopal, Presbyterian, United Church of Christ, Unitarian, United Methodist, the Friends Society, or Quakers, atheists, agnostics, Buddhists, Hindu, Native American spiritualism, and evangelical associations. So there are about 160 partners across the North Dakota. Thank you. If you want to give me your name afterwards, I'll be happy to pass it along.
Okay.
If anybody, I suppose I need a microphone. If anybody is interested in getting one of our information packets that we put together, I have several of them here. You can get them from me, and it's all, you know, it lists Barbara Hedrick's words and her speech that she wasn't able to give, but that Mary did so wonderfully at. And anyway, it has lots of good stuff in it. So if you're interested, please come get it. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. That's Carol Sawicki, super volunteer. Any other questions from anyone? If not, I guess I will say thank you to everyone again for being here, for your questions, for your participation. And once again, we invite Representative Fedorchuk, Senators Hoeven and Kramer to contact us, the League, our partners, or any other nonpartisan organization or local news outlet to help make these town halls happen. The people of North Dakota are ready to be heard, and we hope that our representatives are ready to listen. Thanks for being here today.